Robert reads Linda the headline. Congress finally moved for homeowners their age. One bill became law this summer. Another would keep up to $1 million of their home sale profit tax-free. A third would zero their property tax. So it feels obvious, watch Washington and wait, but run one test on each. Is it law, and does it pay in 2026? The $1 million bill isn't law yet and only touches sales years away. The zero tax bill hasn't had a single vote, and the one that passed moves his bottom line by nothing. But the biggest money a senior can collect in 2026 was sitting there all along. No vote, no signature needed. Unlocking it takes one phone call almost nobody makes. I'm Uncle Bill, and in this video, I'll show Robert and his wife Linda how the money that saves them most needs no vote. I walk Robert past the 3 headline bills, then the state programs paying seniors right now. $60,000 off in Texas, 65% off in New York, a $6,500 check in New Jersey. By the end, you'll see why the loudest bills pay nothing, and the one phone call before a summer deadline that claims it all. Robert reads Linda the headline over coffee. On July 11th, 2026, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act became law. Trump never signed it. He let the 10-day window run out, and it became law on its own. No ceremony, no cameras, almost no news. The biggest housing law in decades slid in like a letter under the door. Robert never heard a word. Not at church, not at his card game. And the takeaway feels obvious. Washington's finally on our side, so a law like this has to put money in our pocket. But a law that slips in with no signature still has teeth, aimed at the exact wall between Robert and a smaller house. It hits the problem every senior hits the second they try to downsize. And it's only one of 3 big moves this year. So what does it actually change for us? But a law that passes in silence still has to do something, and what this one actually changes is aimed straight at the biggest obstacle seniors face. Uncle Bill answers her straight. This law goes after the one buyer regular families could never outbid, Wall Street. For 10 years, hedge funds and private equity bought single-family homes by the thousands, turning starter houses into rentals. Robert remembers it on his own street. The house 2 doors down sold to some company. All cash. And here's why it hits Robert. The hard part of downsizing was never selling the big house, it's finding a smaller one he can afford. But this law aims straight at that shortage. It stops big institutional investors from piling up any more single-family homes. Fewer corporate buyers means more small homes left for people who want to live in one. It's the first real move at the wall that traps millions of downsizers in homes too big for them. Robert's convinced. Washington is clearing his path, and he hasn't even heard the bill with the giant number yet. But easing supply over time is small comfort next to the second bill, the one that could hand some seniors $1 million, completely tax-free. Uncle Bill lays the big one on the table. At the end of June 2026, Representative Nicole Maliotakis introduced H.R. 964, the Nest Egg Protection Act. The headline? Let seniors 65 and up keep up to $1 million in home sale profit without paying a dime in tax. Robert's eyes go wide. $1 million, tax-free. The bill temporarily doubles that tax-free break for homeowners 65 and up who sell their main home from 2027 to 2030. Doubled, that reaches $500,000 for a single seller. A full $1 million for a married couple like Robert and Linda. To Robert, this settles it. The one, the life changer. The reason to sit tight and wait. But the one word the whole bill rests on, the exclusion it doubles, is a word Robert can't define. And until he knows today's rule, he can't see what really changes. Uncle Bill, before you count that million, know what's being doubled. The number that matters isn't the new one. It's the one already on the books. On paper, the biggest figure in the whole conversation. But it all hangs on a rule from 1997 that almost nobody in Robert's shoes has heard of. Uncle Bill, when they set that $250,000 wall in 1997, Robert, it covered practically everybody. Watch what happened. Back in 1997, the average American home sold for about $172,200, so a $250,000 wall erased almost any gain a seller could have. The wall stood taller than the whole house. Then prices climbed nearly 30 years straight while the wall stayed frozen. Robert starts to see it. The rule never changed, but everything around it did. But today, the average home sells for around $514,600, roughly 3 times the 1997 price, while that wall never moved an inch. Home values tripled around a wall that stood still, so the break that once covered the whole gain now leaves a huge slice exposed to tax. A rule written to protect ordinary sellers now punishes the ones who held their home the longest. Linda gets it first. So the people hit hardest are the ones who've been in their house the longest, people like us. But numbers on their own don't sting. So watch what this actually does to one ordinary senior selling one ordinary home. Linda asks the honest question. What exactly is this tax break everyone's doubling? Uncle Bill draws it plain. Since 1997, the rule's been simple. When you sell your main home, a chunk of the profit is walled off from tax. That wall is $250,000 of profit for a single seller, $500,000 for a married couple filing together. Everything above it gets taxed as a capital gain at rates that climb to 20% plus a 3.8% surtax for higher earners. Robert assumes it barely matters. Surely a normal home doesn't clear that. But that one wall is the whole ballgame. The line between a completely tax-free sale and a 5-figure tax bill on the house you raised your kids in. Uncle Bill, owe nothing or owe 30 grand. It comes down to which side of that $250,000 line your profit lands on. The nest egg bill does exactly one thing. It moves that wall out to $500,000 for a single senior. And here's the crack Robert can't see yet. That wall was set in 1997, and it hasn't budged an inch since. But that line was drawn a generation ago, and the world it was built for doesn't exist anymore. Uncle Bill paints one house. Bought in 1995 for $180,000, worth $650,000 today, a $470,000 profit. Robert does the quick math. That's a whole life's worth of equity. A married couple walls off $500,000 of that gain, so their entire $470,000 profit is tax-free. They owe zero. Now picture a widow selling the same house alone. She only gets the single wall $250,000. That leaves $220,000 of her profit exposed to the tax. But here's the gut punch Uncle Bill lands. At a 15% rate, that widow owes about $33,000 in tax on the house she lived in for 3 decades. Same house, same price, same street, the couple pays nothing and the widow pays $33,000, purely because she's one person instead of two. Uncle Bill, the nest egg bill would double her wall to $500,000 and erase that entire $33,000 bill to nothing. Robert feels it now. This is why everyone's watching Washington. A bill that turns a $33,000 tax bill into zero. But as big as that sounds, it still isn't the most aggressive move on the table, because one state is going further than anything moving in Washington. Uncle Bill hands Robert 2 questions to run on each bill. Is it actually law and does it pay you in 2026? 2 questions, yes or no. Robert starts with the $1 million bill. The nest egg bill fails the first test. It's only introduced, not passed, a proposal, not a law. And it fails the second too. Even if it passes, it only covers sales from 2027 through 2030. Nothing for a home sold in 2026. Robert turns to Pennsylvania's zero tax bill, sure that one holds up. But it fails both as well. No floor vote yet. Still gathering co-sponsors, 1 state only, and just for those 75 and up. Uncle Bill. The 2 loudest promises, $1 million tax-free and 0 property tax, pay Robert exactly nothing this year. Both are real ideas. Neither is real money in 2026. Robert sees it plainly. The bills he was ready to wait years for wouldn't help him or Linda for years, if ever. But surely the third one counts. That bill actually became law. So what does the one that passed put in your pocket in 2026? Uncle Bill. Robert, the loudest promise of all isn't in Washington, it's in Pennsylvania. In April 2026, State Senator Doug Mastriano introduced a bill to eliminate property taxes for qualifying seniors completely, not lower them. Zero them out permanently. The rules are specific. 75 or older, lived in Pennsylvania at least 10 years, owned and lived in your home at least 10 years. Robert runs himself against the list and likes his odds. But meet all 3, and this isn't a discount, your property tax bill goes to 0 and stays there year after year. Uncle Bill. It's the most aggressive senior property tax relief proposal alive in any state house in the country. Line it up, and Robert's picture is complete. $1 million tax-free out of Washington, 0 property tax out of Harrisburg. He's certain now, learn these bills cold and wait for them to pass. His belief is fully locked, but line up all 3 of these headline promises against reality and something uncomfortable happens to every last one of them. Robert's last hope. But the Housing Act, that one's real law. That has to do something for us. Uncle Bill, it is real, and it did pass. But look at how it works. It works by slowly loosening housing supply over years. The investor restriction from before. There's no check in the mail, no exemption, no line on your tax bill that moves because of it. Robert waits for the escape hatch. Some way it still helps this year. But there is none. It may improve the market a senior eventually buys or sells into, yet in 2026, it changes Robert and Linda's finances by exactly 0. Uncle Bill lines up all 3. The law and the 2 proposals land in the identical spot this year, nothing you can actually collect. The one that passed pays nothing you can feel. The 2 that could pay aren't law. Robert's stuck. If the loud bills all pay nothing now, is there anything out there that pays at all? But if the loud bills pay nothing now, that raises the only question that matters. Is there relief that already exists and actually pays this year? Uncle Bill's first stop is Texas. In 2025, voters raised the extra over 65 homestead exemption from $10,000 all the way to $60,000. Robert whistles. They multiplied it 6 times over, and it took effect this year. That $60,000 sits on top of the standard $140,000 homestead exemption every Texas homeowner already gets. Stack them, and a senior's taxable home value drops by $200,000 before the tax rate is even applied. Robert assumes it's the usual token discount, a few dollars off, nothing to plan around. But this is no token. Uncle Bill shows him a senior's bill calculated as if $200,000 of the home simply vanished. The tax man never even sees that first $200,000 of value. You're taxed on what's left, and the bill drops hard. No new law to wait for, no Congress. It's already active this year for every qualifying Texan over 65. Robert, that's real money right now, nothing like waiting on a bill. Exactly the turn Uncle Bill wanted. But Texas isn't alone. 2 more states are handing seniors savings just as big, in completely different ways. Uncle Bill turns Robert around. While you've been watching Congress, the savings have been sitting in your own state the whole time. State-level programs on the books right now paying real money to seniors this year. They don't need a vote, a signature, or a headline. They're already law, already funded, already sending savings to the homeowners who claim them. Robert's skeptical. If it were that real, wouldn't he have heard about it by now? But the reason he hasn't heard isn't that the money's small, it's that nobody's pointing at it while the loud bills soak up all the attention. Uncle Bill, these aren't promises for 2027. They're programs paying out in 2026. And the amounts are not small, they run into the tens of thousands. Robert leans in for the first real number, the money he could actually collect this year. But already law means nothing until you see the actual dollars, so start with the state that just blew its senior break wide open. Uncle Bill moves to New York. It expanded its senior citizens homeowners exemption, SCHE, effective January 1st, 2026. Localities can now wipe out up to 65% of a home's assessed value, up from the old 50% cap. Cut 65% off the value your taxes are figured on, and the bill that follows is a sliver of what it used to be. Linda asks the catch. That's only for the poorest seniors, right? Robert assumes the same. Surely the income cutoff is tiny. But the income limit runs as high as $500,000, set deliberately broad so most seniors qualify, not just a lucky few. Uncle Bill, a solidly middle-class New York senior can knock 2/3 off the taxable value of their home with a single application. Already law, already in effect this year, no vote, no waiting. Robert sees the pattern building. 2 states, 2 big savings, both real in 2026. But the state that may make it simplest of all just puts a flat number on it and writes seniors a check. Uncle Bill names the thread running through all 3. Not one of them is automatic. Not the Texas exemption, not New York's SCHE. not New Jersey's Stay NJ, not the freezes. Every single one requires you to file an application to get it. Robert assumed the state just applies it for you once you're old enough, the way most people assume. But the money doesn't come to you. It sits on the state's books until a homeowner files the form that claims it. Uncle Bill, the relief is real and it's waiting. But if that form is never filed, the savings simply never happen. It's not that anyone got turned down. It's that the money waits on a piece of paper most people never send. Linda catches the danger first. So we could qualify for all of it and still get none of it just by not filing? But you have to apply would be harmless if you could do it anytime. And that's exactly what makes the timing so brutal. Uncle Bill's last stop is New Jersey, the plainest of all. The Stay NJ program provides up to $6,500 in property tax relief for qualifying seniors. Not a percentage to work out, an actual dollar figure with your name on it. And it runs alongside a second program, the Senior Freeze, which locks your assessment in place. So as home values keep rising, Robert's tax bill stops climbing, frozen at today's number. Robert can barely believe it's this concrete, a check and a freeze, both already in place. But together, a New Jersey senior can cut thousands off this year's bill and freeze it against next year's. Uncle Bill, Texas, New York, New Jersey, 3 states, 3 ways, everyone paying seniors this year without a single new law. This is the money Robert can collect now, while the headline bills are still just noise. He's sold until Uncle Bill's face tells him there's a catch hiding under all 3. But every one of these programs, Texas, New York, New Jersey, hides the exact same catch. And it's the reason almost none of this money reaches the people it's meant for. Uncle Bill, you can't file whenever you feel like it, Robert. Most of these programs carry annual deadlines that fall in late summer and early fall. That means the window for the savings that hit your bill next year is open right now, in July and August. Robert figures he's got plenty of time. He'll get to it eventually, maybe next spring. Uncle Bill stops him. Eventually is exactly how the money gets lost. But miss this summer's window and you don't just wait, you forfeit an entire year of relief you were fully entitled to. Uncle Bill, the calendar, not your eligibility, is what quietly decides whether you get the money. You can qualify perfectly and still collect nothing purely because the form went in a week late. Robert realizes the clock is running right now, this summer, on savings for a bill that isn't even due yet. But once you see that the deadline is the real gatekeeper, the whole story you walked in with flips on its head. Uncle Bill lands the reveal. The thing that decides whether you save money this year, Robert? It was never a vote in Washington. It's whether you file one application before a deadline. Every headline bill is either not law or law but invisible. None of them helps you in 2026. The relief that does help you was already sitting there the whole time. Opt-in and waiting. Robert flashes back to the man he was at the start, ready to just watch the news and wait for Congress. But the lever was never the legislation. It was the form, and it's been within arm's reach the entire time. Uncle Bill, same house, same senior. The difference between saving thousands and saving nothing is one application, filed on time. Not income, not eligibility, not which party runs Washington. The form, the whole story flips. Robert walked in certain the relief was being written in Washington. It was sitting on his own county's books all along. But if the money's been sitting there all along, that forces an uglier question. Why do so few seniors ever actually collect it? Uncle Bill hands Robert the whole plan in a single instruction. Call your county assessor's office. The number's right there on your property tax bill. One phone call, no lawyer, no forms mailed off blind, no waiting on Washington. Ask exactly this. Which senior exemptions, freezes, or relief programs apply to my address and the deadline to apply for each one next year? Then write those deadlines down. Robert almost overthinks it, waiting for a catch. But that's the entire move. One call this week, the deadline's written down, the application's in before they pass. Uncle Bill, whatever Congress does with its headline bills, the money you can collect in 2026 was never a vote away. It was one phone call, and the deadline is this summer. Robert looks at the tax bill on the counter, the assessor's number printed at the top, and sees it. The relief he was waiting on Washington for was in his own hand the whole time. The savings he walked in waiting on Washington for needed no vote at all. Just one phone call before the deadline this summer.